Tonight on the Northwestern News Report, Northwestern and Jewish Voice for Peace at odds, the university shutting down multiple events.
And early voting began in Evanston yesterday. We talked to voters about what issues matter most to them.
Plus, Evanston residents run for their lives in a creepy competition.
All that and more tonight on the Northwestern News Report.
It's your news
right now.
Good evening and welcome to the Northwestern News Report. I'm Mila Branson.
And I'm Victoria Ryan.
We begin tonight with new numbers released from the Daily Northwestern's campus poll earlier this month. The Daily polled undergraduate students, gauging their opinions on politics, social life, and Northwestern President Michael Schill. The Daily's Scott Huang is heading the paper's new polling initiative and is live in the studio to give us an early look at some of the numbers. Scott, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Mila. 2 weeks ago, the Daily's first undergraduate poll received over 1,000 responses from Wildcats. Now, we covered a range of topics, but I'm going to break down just one for you today: how students feel about Northwestern's University President Michael Schill. Let's start with the top line numbers. Approval rating. That's the percent of respondents who said they either strongly approve or somewhat approve of Schill's job performance. Now, you can see in the blue that Schill gets a 32%. Now, 32% doesn't sound high, but you can see that students also had the option of giving one of two neutral responses, either no opinion or neither approve nor disapprove. So we have to put his approval numbers in context with his disapproval numbers. You can see that in purple, the percent of students who somewhat disapprove or strongly disapprove of Schill's performance is 34%. 32% approve, 34% disapprove. That means Schill's net approval, his positives minus his negatives, is very close to zero, minus 2%. So overall, students are pretty even about how they feel about Schill's performance. But let's take a closer look at the numbers. You might wonder whether anything changes if we take out the first years and transfer students who haven't been at Northwestern for very long. Well, something does change. Among only the returning students, that's second years and above, Schill's approval rating looks actually pretty much identical at 32%, but a lot more students disapprove, 42%. That gives him a much lower minus 10% net approval. And in fact, you can see that Schill's net approval drops steadily as you look at the older years. Just look at these disapproval numbers, which get worse as you go down toward the fourth years. Among first years, he has an overwhelmingly positive plus 20% net approval. Second years give him a lower, but still positive, plus 6%. For third years, it starts plummeting, minus 17%. And for fourth years, it hits a low of minus 25%. One more thing. This was a multiple choice poll, so we didn't ask students to explain their responses, but we can get a hint in the data. Another one of the questions we asked was how students felt about the encampment, which was set up on Deering Meadow in the spring. What you'll notice is that the more students approved of the encampment, the less they approved of Schill in general. So of the students who either somewhat or strongly approved of the encampment, half of them disapproved of Schill. Meanwhile, Schill had a 55% approval rating among students who disapproved of the encampment. This data suggests that students are seeing Schill in opposition to last spring's encampment. Overall, we've seen that Schill's approval numbers seem to be heavily influenced by on-campus events from last spring, and we'll have to see how those numbers change going forward. Thanks for having me on. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Scott. Check out the full results from the campus poll later this week on the Daily Northwestern's website and social media accounts.
While President Schill's handling of the encampment stands as a debated topic on campus, the university's new demonstration policies are adding to the conversation. These policies were enforced earlier this week when Northwestern's chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace built a sukkah on Deering Meadow. NNN's Ellie Skelly was at the scene. Here's what she found out.
NUPD, KKK, IOF, they're all the same.
The sound of splintering wood on Deering Meadow tonight, when Northwestern police brought what Jewish Voice for Peace called a religious celebration in solidarity with Gaza to an end.
Only care about supporting genocide.
It is painful to see such a beautiful example of Jewish community with my fellow students with whom I forged such a beautiful community be torn down, and be torn down by this institution that is supposed to care about me.
Sukkot is a week-long Jewish festival traditionally observed by building a sukkah, an outdoor hut, and spending 8 days living in it.
One of the core parts of the holiday is dwelling in the sukkah, which means sleeping there.
Members of JVP said that their sukkah stood for the, quote, immediate end of the U.S. supply of arms to Israel and for university divestment.
We were peaceful. We were singing some songs, doing some prayers.
JVP planned to celebrate the holiday on Deering Meadow for the duration of the week. The group gathered at 6:30 p.m., but by around 9, university officials approached the organizers, saying they were in violation of the university's display policy.
To watch it get torn down by Northwestern police officers at the discretion of student affairs was unsurprising and still devastating.
These policies, put in place in September, state that, quote, any installation of a 3D display on university property must be reserved through Nor's Outdoors, and that installation of tents is prohibited.
They told us that if we did not leave the sukkah and if we continued celebrating our Jewish holiday, we would be arrested.
Northwestern spokesperson John Yates told NNN in a statement, quote, a student organization that is not registered with Northwestern had requested university permission for the event, but was denied. Yates went on to say that, quote, these students face disciplinary action.
We are certainly not afraid, and we are certainly not discouraged.
From Deering Meadow, Ellie Skelly, Northwestern News Network.
And Jewish Voice for Peace gathered again on Friday in what they called a celebration of Sukkot. At 4 p.m., students, faculty, and members of the Evanston community met at the Rock. They sang songs, read prayers, and built a second sukkah. During the ceremony, a Northwestern official had a conversation with JVP members, saying they were in violation of Northwestern policy and that they could either remove the sukkah themselves or have Northwestern remove it again. JVP refused to comply with their demands, and at 6:30 p.m., the sukkah was removed by university officials. In a statement to NNN, university spokesperson John Yates said that JVP's status as a student organization was frozen at the beginning of the academic year due to, quote, not fulfilling the necessary requirements to maintain its status. Yates went on to say that the Office of Community Standards is currently reviewing a, quote, matter regarding JVP that, quote, further necessitates a pause on their recognition status. However, in a press conference with JVP member Paz Baum, JVP said that they had only become aware of this recognition status earlier that day via email.
JVP believes that the new policies that Northwestern implemented are designed to suppress students at the total discretion of university officials.
As the investigation into JVP develops, we will continue to keep you updated.
Earlier tonight, former U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry visited campus, holding a lecture at Kahn Auditorium. NNN's Arya Wozniak is live outside of Kahn, where Kerry finished his speech a little over an hour ago. Arya, I know this discussion surrounded geopolitics.
Thanks,
and global
Mila.
business.
I'm here outside Kahn Auditorium, right where John Kerry had his speech. Now, tonight he didn't talk about the election or conflict in the Middle East, but he did talk a lot about climate change. He talked first primarily about our capacity for governance in a polarized political climate and said we run on the problem and not on the solution, and that the rest of the world can see this. However, he was really optimistic and said we have to do what we did in World War II in order to transition away from fossil fuels and reach net zero by 2050. Now, this starts right now, and he was saying that every major movement in history has been led by young people. He encouraged people to go vote for people who will address climate issues and to really take a stance. It's led by young people. He encouraged people to get out there, and that it starts with us citizens. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Arya.
Coming up, how Evanstonians are casting their ballots before the upcoming election. We'll be right back.
Go you Northwestern, go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread far the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Early voting is now underway in Evanston and across Cook County. NNN's Bridget Adu-Wadier spoke to voters who cast their ballots yesterday.
You coming to vote?
The election might still be 2 weeks away, but some voters in Evanston are already casting ballots.
I wanted to vote early because it is a privilege to vote.
Some Evanstonians started their morning at the Civic Center on Ridge Avenue, lining up for the first day of early voting Monday.
What I've heard, voting this year is going to be very high, so didn't want to wait in line too long.
The city joins hundreds of others where early voting has already started. NBC News reports that over 14 million mail-in and early ballots have been cast. Voters can cast their ballots early at the center until November 4th. This week, it will be open Wednesday through Sunday.
It was maybe a 5-minute, 6-minute wait before I went into the actual booth to cast my ballot.
Weighing the key issues.
I'm a physical therapist, so healthcare is a huge issue for me.
And organizations like the ACLU and the Evanston Women League of Voters hosting an event on abortion issues on Sunday, pushing for residents to get to the polls.
Yeah, we've gone around the state with events like this to really push this idea of people being involved, of voting.
Another way to skip the long lines on Election Day, voting by mail. Residents can apply for a mail-in ballot online. The deadline in Illinois is October 31st.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Making every vote count. Bridget Adu-Wadier, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Bridget. You can head to the City of Evanston's website for more information about where and when to vote early.
And on the election, there is one Northwestern professor who forecasts the presidential election daily. NNN's Maria Heim introduces us to the professor who bases this data off of prediction models.
What do you think about people betting on the election?
I think that's so silly. I mean, I had known people were betting on it.
Honestly, it was a bit surprising, but I can't really say I'm that surprised.
And one Northwestern professor is working daily. Data science professor Tom Miller developed the virtual tout in 2020, which forecasts electoral votes daily. He recognizes the value in using prediction markets, where people bet on election outcomes as a data measure.
I did predict a Biden-Harris victory, but not nearly the kind of landslide victory that was predicted by others.
While prediction markets are comprised of investors, polls focus on the candidates and a voter's preference. Miller recognizes this flaw.
By the time they get published, they're late, they're old.
He says events have impacted the markets the most.
The National Association of Black Journalists was, in my mind, the turning point of the election. Prior to that point, everything was looking Republican.
And as for college students, he says some participate in this betting just as they do in sports markets.
There's not a lot of extra money in that population.
Betting on ballots with election odds at focus. Maria Heim, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Maria. Professor Miller predicts an influx of new investors entering the market within these 2 weeks.
Elections on campus are being held as well. The results of the Associated Student Government Senate elections are in. NNN's Lulia Tekel tells us what legislation they hope to pass.
Last Wednesday, the Associated Student Government, ASG, elected new members to the Senate. For some of these new senators, ensuring the consistent accessibility to halal-friendly food is a top priority.
I am a particularly Muslim student here at Northwestern, and I noticed at the dining halls that they mislabel a lot of the foods.
Noor Yalambas, a new electee and Muslim student, had an experience with the dining hall that motivated her to make a change on campus.
I was like, what is this? And they were like, this is pork. And I was like, this isn't halal.
She then texted the Muslim Cultural Student Association group chat, and students responded that this was not the first time.
I was told that over and over again that this is like a recurring issue and that nothing changes, but this year I really want to make a change.
Ryan Laluna-Bill, a new Weinberg Senator electee, is also focused on improving dining halls' accessibility for Muslim students.
And make sure that everyone's needs are being satisfied, because as a college student you have to eat to nourish your body and nourish your mind, so it's very important.
Laluna-Bill hopes to use the experiences he's faced to advocate not only for other Muslim students, but for everyone on campus.
As a first-generation student, I know that I don't really have the same experiences as some other students, so I want to make sure that people who are in similar kind of space as me or who have similar characteristics as me have the same opportunity to succeed at our schools.
The new senators, hoping that their new positions means ASG action towards consistent access to halal foods on campus. Lulia Tekle, Northwestern News Network.
We will continue to update you on ASG legislation in the coming months.
Also on campus, last Friday, the Block Museum of Art hosted a lecture screening entitled Background Echoes, Mexicanness and the Production of Race in Hollywood. Annika Swanee takes us there.
Analyzing historical trends that have shaped industry stereotypes, the Block Museum held a conversation on how Mexican identities are depicted in Hollywood.
And who is allowed to perform those roles? Are they played by someone we might identify as Latinx?
Laura Isabella Serna, Associate Professor of Cinema and Media Studies at University of Southern California, delivered a presentation Friday.
And this woman is an extra.
16mm and 35mm trailers from the Academy Archive in Los Angeles were specifically curated.
So they're coming from this collection that doesn't normally circulate, so the opportunity that we have here to watch them in this context is very special because you're getting to see them and they're being exposed, and there's going to be a conversation that's happening around them.
Following Serena's lecture, the audience was invited to participate.
You've already said a little bit about authenticity, and I'm just curious about this relationship between race and authenticity.
The federales called him bandit. The governor's wife called him lover.
Centering conversations about Hollywood's Hispanic stereotypes, from the Block Museum, Annika Swanee, Northwestern News Network.
For more information on upcoming events, visit the Block Museum website.
Coming up, a look into fall festivities in Evanston. Stay tuned.
Trying to work my way out of the prison system was the most difficult challenge of my life. It only became tangible once I became a Northwestern student.
One, two, three, four.
My relationship with Giannis is unique. We're from the same country, we're from the same city. Being a Northwestern alum, I think, has tremendous advantages in the sports industry. To me, that community, it's been with me for 20 plus years.
Welcome back. Evanston residents are kicking off spooky season with a new festival. NNN's Rachel Spears has more on the fall-themed fun.
Tents with activities, products, and food filled 2 blocks in South Evanston Sunday, giving the community an opportunity to shop and mingle at the first annual Main Street Fall Festival.
Welcome back to Main Street Fall Fest is literally just to say welcome back to Main Street.
For the first time in 3 years, businesses hope to make up losses after construction on Main Street ended last week. It disrupted traffic and commerce, leading to staff cuts and loss of revenue.
We want people to come back and see that Main Street is done, the construction's done, it's brand new, it's smooth, it's safer, it's cleaner, it's greener.
From cupcakes to jewelry, vendors of all ages were selling their locally made products. 12-year-old Sammy Carr has been making her own jewelry for 4 years.
I love being like
with all these like different businesses and seeing everybody's and like meeting a bunch of new people, and I love selling jewelry.
There were a bunch of activities for people to showcase their creativity.
If I had the same palette and tried to make the same painting, it's not going to be the same.
Many of the tents held products that are unique to Evanston and its community members.
Almost all of the rest of the tents you'll see out are actual Main Street businesses who are selling their stuff to people.
Falling out of construction and into a new Main Street, Rachel Spears, Northwestern News Network.
The Main Dempster Mile and the Evanston Lighthouse Rotary Club will be hosting a Summerfest on Main Street in June.
Once upon a time, one Evanston bookstore became two. This next chapter for Bookends and Beginnings takes a turn in the typical tale of a small business. NNN's Allison Miller covers the change.
Nina Barrett is turning over a new page. A Used Bookstore is the sequel in her story of small business resilience.
We've almost had to push people out the door who just want to come in and see what's going on. There was a magical day when I was thinking about it. I walked down the street and the landlord was standing right in front of the store.
That store is now the site of Middle's Used Books, a pop-up shop just a few doors down from Bookends and Beginnings.
Often it's a bookstore that will kind of set the tone for that or have a community around it.
Middle's houses used books that shoppers in the main store have donated or traded in for store credit. Jessica Fisher works as a used book buyer, designing and organizing the space.
I see how beautiful the books look, and it is just like, did I really do that?
Evanston's small merchants, competing with Amazon and landlords' high expectations, often close their doors. Bookends and Beginnings survived a 125% rent increase by making the move to Orrington in early 2023.
People here are so friendly and so nice always, so I think that's what brings me back every time.
Now, with 2 storefronts instead of 1, it's a comeback story 10 years in the making.
I'm feeling pretty proud and pretty resilient and pretty excited.
Now, you might be wondering when the new store is scheduled to open. Staff are hoping as early as tomorrow. In Evanston, Allison Miller, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Allison. Used books at Middles will be marked down by at least 50% of their regular price. Interested in trading in books? You can set up an appointment by emailing used@bookensandbeginnings.com.
From stocking up on stories to cultivating community, the Ridgeville Park District community members gathered last Thursday evening to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. NNN's Sylvie Slotkin tells us about the culture surrounding the holiday.
Ridgeville Park District community members gathered on a warm Thursday evening to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, drawing on tradition to educate families on the culture surrounding the holiday.
It's a beautiful day to be here, which is awesome. We're celebrating Dia de los Muertos today.
This comes as the Ridgeville Park District switched from their annual fall frenzy in favor of cultural initiatives. This one featured attractions such as face painting, live music,
and delicious, authentic treats.
We pivoted to something with a little bit more, cultural significance to the Latino Hispanic community, which we, have here in Evanston. Kept what we have, and now we're expanding. And if you learn a little bit of culture, I think that's just icing on the cake.
Director of Recreation and Special Events, Natalie Salee, who ran the popular Ofrenda making station, hopes events like these keep community members coming back to Park District events.
I hope that they walk away feeling welcome and like they had fun with their local park district and staff. We love doing big community events like this that are free and open to the public.
The community brought the energy and their furry friends.
Well, we're really excited to come out. We live in the neighborhood and we do all the Ridgeville events.
Erica Natasdy, whose daughter enjoyed the tacos and Ofrenda flower craft, is grateful for all the work the Park District does to put on cultural events like these.
I mean, we're just so lucky to have Ridgeville in our community.
In Ridgeville Park, Sylvie Slotkin, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Sylvie. Mila, it was a good weekend to celebrate in the park with all of that sunny weather.
Yeah, Victoria, and I'm crossing my fingers that it will stick around. But don't worry, we have Micah Sandy here in the studio to tell us what to expect in the upcoming days. Micah, what are we looking at?
Thanks, good evening. It was good weather indeed. Currently we have a low pressure front to the high, currently low pressure system to the north and high pressure system to the east, which are allowing for warm moisture to come from the south, allowing for somewhat humid air. Additionally, this is allowing for southerly winds later on tonight. The low pressure system will bring this cold front, the blue triangles right there, to the east, which will drop our temperature steadily overnight. So right now we're currently clear, had a high of 69 and a low of 55. Temperatures will gradually drop from the upper 60s into the upper 50s as we head into Wednesday morning. Next 6 p.m. sunset will be until March 10, 2025, so enjoy that last before 6 p.m. sunset. That's so sad. Clear skies, no precipitation this week, and then temperatures around town. Currently in Evanston, we're at 67, 68 at Skokie, 69 at O'Hare if you're catching any weekend flights, 68 downtown, and 69 for Midway, and then Willow Springs, 69 as well. Here's what we're looking at for the week. Rain chance increased late night Thursday and into the Friday morning with AM showers before skies become dry and cloudy.
Thanks, Micah. You know, Victoria, I'm actually looking forward to seeing the sunset sometimes now.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the sun's still out when I get out of class, but yeah.
After the break, a spine-chilling race brings the undead to Evanston. Welcome back. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Northwestern's Pokemon Club is doing their part to raise awareness and funds. NNN's Meryl Lee tells us how they're supporting the cause.
A McCormick 4th year and Weinberg 5th year teamed up to found the Pokemon Club.
And we just battled in the class and talked about Pokemon and then decided that we wanted to start a club because we couldn't find one here.
Playing together after their entrepreneurship class last year, they thought other Northwestern students might be interested in joining them.
It's really a great community. I feel like this is going to be my legacy here at Northwestern.
Club meetings are held Saturdays at 5 p.m. in the Norris Game Lounge.
Pokemon's something that I've really enjoyed for a long time, and it's really cool to be able to play with people and have friends that play here as well.
Partnering with the University of Washington's Pokemon Club, they will hold an Open Gen 3 OU, a type of gameplay, tournament this upcoming weekend. The tournament is being held in honor of Rachel Lillis, a voice actress on the Pokemon TV show. She passed away from breast cancer in August of this year.
I was really shocked when Rachel Lillis passed. She was so young. She was only 55. And she touched a lot of people's lives.
Currently, there are 6 colleges participating, and all proceeds made will go to the Susan G. Komen for the Cure, an organization that funds breast cancer research.
I'm looking forward to helping raise money for a great cause.
Beck and Pate are printing a 3D trophy for the champion of the game, and they plan on leaving with it.
I'm looking forward to helping lead Northwestern to victory.
From Norris University Center, Meryl Lee, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Meryl. The tournament will be streamed by the University of Washington on Twitch.
This Saturday marked the 9th annual Evanston Zombie Scramble. NNN's Jackson Weber tells us how Evanston turns parks into a playground for the undead.
Ready, set, go. This Saturday, Evanston community residents raced for their lives as the Walking Dead took over town. But fear not, it was the 9th annual Evanston Zombie Scramble.
Just seeing the kids get so excited, and adults too, go out on the course and get chased by zombies, hearing people screaming in the park and just knowing that they're having fun and that they are safe, and then watching them finish, either successful or not, they still had a blast.
Children and adults raced 1.5 miles, fraught with zombie volunteers aiming to snatch their flags before they reached the finish line.
It's been pretty fun. We've been hiding behind trash cans and trees and in bushes and jumping out and scaring people, and it's been really fun.
The thrilling event has become one of Evanston's most beloved activities, drawing crowds that would make any zombie proud.
Participants, we have about 900 signed up. Yeah, so Evanston turns out for this one.
As darkness fell, participants, undead and alive, reached the end of the course and shared their advice.
On the way, be sure to check on the ground to find any flags, and also people give you flags, so be sure to look for those people.
Survivors, zombies, and the infected all agree. This race is dead serious fun. Reporting from the apocalypse, Jackson Weber, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Jackson. City organizers tell us they're looking forward to next year.
That's all the time we have for tonight. I'm Mila Branson.
And I'm Victoria Ryan. Have a great night.